$1 million. Free to play. You just need to survive. It's the Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Pick one team to win each week. Get it right, move on. Get it wrong, you're out. The last fan standing take home a guaranteed $1 million cash prize. And for every player who joins, we add $1 to the pot, up to $10 million. The Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Play free on the Fanatics app. App access open to all. Must be 21 plus and joined by 9/8 to play. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. Void where prohibited. Subject to complete terms. See fanatics.com/game rules.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. That's why you need Shopify. They'll help you create a convenient, unified command center for whatever your business throws at you, whether you sell online, in-store, or both. You can sell the way you want, attract the customers you need, and keep them coming back. Turn those what-ifs into why-nots with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbiff Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro de Nationale, Champions Cups, Challenge Cups, national teams, various World Cups, and I suppose most importantly of all, the brilliant town, cities, bars, restaurants, everything that makes French rugby the game, the experience we know and love. Rob, slightly different backdrop today. You've been shuffling the pack in Shea Rock.
Booted out, mate. No, I've my girlfriend moved in this week, so the desk
Congrats.
that I used to sit at is now, well, A, she's working there currently because we're recording this Tuesday lunchtime. B, the backdrop wasn't going to work. So might see some new backdrops. You might have noticed, those of you who have watched the videos on YouTube, that there was a plain backdrop as opposed to the usual curtain. So I'll be mixing it up, but I think just try and keep it simple with a white background. It's much nicer. Anyway, that's really boring chat. How are you, Richard? Are you still celebrating your excellent performance on Saturday? That was when I last saw you. You were probably best player on the pitch for us on Saturday, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, even the blind squirrel finds a nut occasionally, as they say. Yeah, I enjoyed Saturday. End of my cricket season. To the new listeners, Rob and I are, although we pretend to know a bit about French rugby, we probably know maybe a little. Actually, probably don't know much more about cricket. Play more cricket, but yeah, after a year of missing straight ones and getting caught on the rig, managed to get a few away on Saturday, which was nice. In what I would like to describe as Aurillac-style conditions towards the end. It was dark and dingy.
It was not cricket. It was not cricket weather, that's for sure. It was autumn had arrived a few days early in southwest London, for sure.
It was like when Van played Cass last year and you could basically see about 3 feet in front of you. But all good fun. Mentioned Aurillac there. We're going to come on to Pro Day Dirt in a little bit because it was an outrageous round. I think
absolutely wild.
I really hope we haven't gone too hard too early and the rest of the season is a bit after the Lord Mayor's show. But it was, it had
everything. Be a 0-0 or a 3-3 next week, yeah.
There'll be all sorts going on. But Rob, the top 14 is back. Top 14, the glitz and glamour, the jouet, the big boys, the cash, the wild owners. It's all back with a vengeance this weekend. Starting with Stade Francais and New Boys Montauban, which is quite an interesting one.
Relegation 8-pointer.
Interesting one to get us going. But I think we wanted to do a little bit of a preview for the listeners, new and old.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd imagine anyone that is tuning into this is tuning into it because they have an interest in French rugby and therefore are aware of what the top 14 is. But it is certainly, I mean, it's the most financially powerful league in world rugby, and I think the kind of demands of it and the draw of it and the pull is highlighted by Will Skelton returning early from what used to be the premier competition in international rugby, I'd say, in the what was the Tri-Nations, the Rugby Championship, returning early from that to play in the top 14, has obviously caused quite a stir. And in the build-up to this season, we have seen plenty of random noise that you get with the top 14 clubs and French rugby. And Jackie Lorenzetti at Racing 92 has kindly kind of kept himself in the headlines over the summer. So we've got a whole nother 300 and however many days of talking about Jackie Lorenzetti, which is fun. But I think the top 14 has won the Champions Cup in how many of the last 5-6 editions now?
Yeah, I think you have to go back to. Do you have to go back to Exeter? I think you do, don't you?
Yeah, Exeter is the previous one, so that's 2020, wasn't it? So
yeah,
the last 5 editions, they are the biggest clubs financially, and well, maybe not. Leinster, I reckon, might have a word to say about that. But there's obviously plenty of pulling power. There's plenty of pulling power of international players. They are deep squads. They are big budgets. They are flexing their muscles in global rugby, I'd say. And I think with the whole R360 stuff, the top 14 is the kind of main fly in the ointment for a lot of people, isn't it? It's like, how on earth do you get the clubs out of, or players out of the clubs, or France to agree with it? Because the LNR, Ligue Nationale de Rugby, is its own beast, separate from the French Rugby Federation, and has its own rules. And these clubs are mighty, mighty powerful. But yeah, how would you summarise it? I think there's an element of there are the big boys and the even bigger boys in top 14. That would be one thing I would say, is that it's getting slightly less equal, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, and one that maybe when we go through where we think the sort of chunks of the league, as we did last week with Pro Day Deux, as to what those sort of tiers might look like. But yeah, there's a huge amount of financial clout. There's a huge amount of noise, of eyes on it. Obviously, we spoke last week in the second tier about the influx of sort of British and foreign players that have drawn more eyes to it. Really, that's been going on, particularly from an English standpoint. The top 14 is the big initial draw, as much as your Mays and Laws, etc. in Pro Day Deux. I think we've now got like 25 English players, and then a few more Welsh, Scottish, Irish knocking around in the top 14. So, it's a hugely influential league. It's a league that, from an English rugby or Rosbiff perspective, has drawn a lot of conversation around eligibility and players making that move across the channel, maybe before their international careers are up. But look, fundamentally, for all the kind of administrative and financial side of it, it's a fantastically entertaining product. And it maintains also those brilliant links with the places that has always been our draw. The real kind of, you've got these colosseums of French rugby in Bayonne and Clermont. You've got the sort of razzle dazzle and heritage and domination of Toulouse, the sort of new upstarts in their brilliant old ground of somewhere like Bordeaux, and then clubs like Cast, which are part of a population of 40,000. The ground holds nearly half of those, and it's central to everything. So yeah, I think it's important not to lose that in a game, and I suppose a time when sport is increasingly commoditized, and the top 14 very much is part of that. There is that slight romance and that slight heritage, and that keeps us on board, I'd say.
I think one of the big things that I see so much on social media, and when I kind of talk to people about the fact that we do this, a lot of them say, but the French clubs have got so much money. How? Well, the TV deal with Canal Plus is enormous. It dwarfs what the Premiership or Prem has with TNT Sports, and that's kind of well publicised. And that's also trickles down to Pro Day Deux. They have primetime slots Thursday, Friday for Pro Day Deux, and they have primetime slots Saturday, Sunday with top 14, and that was a decision by Canal Plus to move and side with rugby. I think it kind of roughly coincided with the Rugby World Cup, but they moved out of having Ligue 1 football as their premium product. They went in with the English Premier League and top 14 and Pro Day Deux as their big kind of heavy hitters in terms of drawing people to Canal Plus subscriptions. But sponsorship, local sponsorship and local owners and local communities are a big part of the funding structure. The example I always give is that Toulouse were a little bit iffy on their funding structure back in kind of around COVID time, because one of their primary sponsors is Airbus, and Airbus couldn't perhaps guarantee the kind of long-term contracts that they were getting, or their customers couldn't guarantee that they'd be buying their planes because they didn't know what was happening with global travel, and therefore there was a trickle-down impact into Toulouse. But these, you mentioned Cast, Stade Pierre Fabre is the stadium, Pierre Fabre Cosmetics employs something like over 50% of the town. Same with Michelin in Clermont-Ferrand. And the kind of club is, you've got the Stade Marcel Michelin, the Stade Pierre Fabre. These stadiums are the fulcrum of the town and the employees of the town, basically, and they are major sponsors of these clubs. So, and just shows the kind of interwebbing with the community as well. But I think some clubs have kind of ownership by the local mayoralty or municipality, perhaps a bit more in Pro D2. I know Béziers is a big one, big example of that. But yeah, the money comes from not just the TV and the tickets. They obviously have amazing attendances across the league. Bordeaux had is the best supported team in World Rugby. I think they averaged nearly 33,000 at Stade Chaban-Delmas. Sold out every week. That's a lot of people through the door compared to other rugby clubs, especially in the UK. But yeah, the attendance is a big part as well. And that is because of the links to the community. They care. They really care. It's like football in the UK. I know I've churned out a lot of cliches there.
And I suppose also, before we get into the rugby element, if you're new to the pod and maybe looking to hear a little bit more about top 14 and why you should be interested, well, these are the clubs ultimately that the sides, both in the British sides, the South African sides in Europe, Champions and Challenge Cup, are going to be playing. So yeah, you can listen out a little bit more, try and impress your mates with a few niche bits of knowledge along the way. And then hopefully, if you're, for instance, a Bath fan, get yourself down to Toulon at the back end of the year. So yeah, and also we've spoken a lot about like the amazing infrastructure and kind of commercial deals and things like that. There's also some absolute characters knocking about regardless in each of these, even in these high places. So and Lorenzetti, you mentioned there, probably top of the tree in terms of sort of firebrands at the moment, but I'm sure there'll be various chairmen and presidents with pretensions of knocking him off through the course of the season.
I think the big money benefactors, a lot of them are not necessarily when they put these budgets and they submit them to the LNR, the Ligue Nationale Rugby, they basically have to say how they're funding them, which will largely be TV deals, attendances, etc. Some of them are just gifts from benefactors. So if you do have a big money owner, you can, like Moad Altrad, you can kind of put that in there as your funding. Yeah, we're getting of our 40 mil, whatever, or 30 mil euros budget, 15 mil of that is coming straight out of Altrad's pocket. They can say that, and as long as the needs meet the ends, then they're all good in terms of a financial regulation perspective. Yeah.
Should we get into the rugby a little bit?
Yes.
The top 14 last year, Toulouse won an amazing final against Bordeaux. Bit of a one for the ages, wasn't it? Extra time, drama abound, having the previous year sealed one of the most one-sided finals you'll ever see against the same opposition.
In world sport, yeah.
So that gap has perhaps closed, but Toulouse we would consider, I think, still top of the pile. And probably if you are new to the top 14, you still probably know that because they're bloody dominant and brilliant. But should we talk about that kind of where we realistically it's probably a top 4 favourites? Is that fair to say?
I think so, yeah.
In terms of certainly making the semi-finals and maybe having a chance of winning the thing.
Yeah, and I you will have seen, because we've done our table prediction, you will have seen when you put yours in that the only places I had initially locked in were 1st and 2nd and 14th. And I'm struggling to see past Toulouse and Bordeaux as finishing as the top 2 sides. I will be absolutely amazed if over the course of 26 regular league games, Stade Toulousain are not the top team at the end of it. Just their depth is phenomenal and people are still chasing them. Bordeaux have pushed them pretty damn close over the last few years. I think you mentioned the semi-finals where you get a home barrage if you finish 3rd or 4th. So you're not even guaranteed a semi-final if you finish 3rd or 4th. But with the home advantage thing, you kind of got a good shot at it. You mentioned, go on then, Rich, who are the 4 for you?
Toulouse, Bordeaux, obviously, although I've got Bordeaux in 3rd, just why not? But I think Bordeaux would still be my favourite. I still think it'll be a Bordeaux-Toulouse final, again, for a 3 on the spin. La Rochelle, who obviously have been so dominant in European rugby up until last season, but had a really tricky time of it, finished outside the barrage places, but and deservedly so as well. They were genuinely not very good for large parts of the season.
If you are new to the top 14, that is one of the things that I'd really like to stress, is that La Rochelle for the last 2 or 3 years have been utterly pants. They've been rubbish, and they have certain games where just the quality of the names in the team get them over the line, and also they're kind of been reliant on other teams fluffing their lines quite a lot. But it has to be said, they have been quite crap for large swathes of the last few seasons. You know, it might seem obvious to fans that follow the Champions Cup that, La Rochelle are, in the top 3 teams, the top 4 teams. They really weren't last year. They really, really were not one of the best sides in the league. And it showed in Europe in the end. Yeah,
completely. But I think, and maybe we'll talk about that in just a second, they have made some very exciting recruits. And I think Toulon, who finished, were they third? They were third last year, right?
They were third last year, yeah.
Toulon and Bayonne in fourth. I think we agreed have at various points looked like the biggest challenger to what is now the sort of big two, and have also recruited pretty well. And also, and I think with them and La Rochelle, there's a bit of perhaps flattering to deceive last couple of seasons. Their sides, fan bases, management that expect silverwear, and I think that puts them in that top 4 bracket.
I think both those. Certainly Toulon, I think they're done with not having silverwear. I think they are kind of becoming increasingly expectant and actually increasingly hopeful for that silverwear, because they were all right towards the end of 2 seasons ago, and I genuinely think they were pretty good last year. They were a comfortable third for me, ahead of everyone else. I was a little bit sceptical about where I would put them, because they have lost some really, really good players, but they've also signed some really good players. Lestafine Ganuku last year was absolutely brilliant. Every time we watched him, he's gone back to Crusaders. Juta Wanakolo was a freak show, viral sensation.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
He's gone. But actually, as we kind of discovered when we did our team of the season, he didn't actually play that many games for Toulon. Facundo Issa returned to his best form last year, having kind of fallen off from his initial early promise. He's gone to Po. So they do lose a few key players, but they've also, as you say, made some of the most exciting signings, and arguably have signed one of the best young players in France as well, in Mathis Ferte.
Yeah, I think for Toulon, for me, it feels like even with those the sort of departures, rather, they haven't, it doesn't vault them forwards, but I don't think it takes them backwards. I don't think they've left maybe a massive hole. And, we saw them last year. They probably should have beaten Toulouse in the quarterfinal of the Champions Cup. Like they can mix it on their day with the best. And, ultimately in a league season that finishes with a barrage and then a kind of finals round, that could be enough, but maybe not.
Yeah, I should say that they've replaced Issa with, again, one of the best signings, I would say, in the league, in Zach Mercer, who's previous in the top 14 is player of the season, and then basically next best player of the season the following year. A dynamic ball, he's going to fill that hole, isn't he? Hopefully he'll stay fit. That would be amazing. And they've replaced Fanganuku, who is, I think, a notch above this player, but they've replaced him with Nacho Brex, who has garnered many a fan across European rugby over the last few years for his performance for Italy. So some really good players, and I think the key to their game plan was actually their type 5 and the physicality of their back row. And they've still got Sinclair, they've still got Jean-Baptiste Gross, they've still got Bobigny, they've still got Dave Ribbons, who is outstanding. Ludlam was great last year. Yeah, just got so many. Danny Prizos fill in, like Halangahu. They've got such a good type 5 and depth in that type 5 that they will be competitive throughout the season, no matter what. Yeah,
and I think a little word on speaking about recruits there on La Rochelle as well, who have probably maybe the 2 most eye-catching signings, certainly at least from within the league, with David Niniashvili going across from Lyon, who is, he is a global superstar, and he'd be even more so if he wasn't playing for Georgia. A genuinely generational player. Nolan Le Garrec, who I know at times has his detractors, but is capable of amazing things, and it probably still has a fair few French caps ahead of him. They are.
How old is he? 22?
Is he 22, 23? Yeah, he feels like he's been around for ages. So I think they are very much what you would consider statement signings, regardless of the quality of the players in terms of signalling their intent. They've also picked up Semi Langavalo and Hugo Pacom, who from Colomiers, right? Who's
Yeah.
very highly regarded, although I don't know how much he'll feature early doors, but I'm sure we'll have a role to play at some point.
So they've only made 4 senior signings. They've also signed Gail Galvan, the massive thighed Argentinian 20-year-old Titan.
Oh, yeah.
Who on All Rugby was listed at 150 kilos. But their 4 senior signings are all 23 or younger. So they've only made 4 of them, but Legaric 23, Niniashvili remarkably still only 22. Semi Langavala 22. He's like if you're a fan of the top 14, you will have known how Sorelli Mangala went last year at Bayonne. He's a very similar player, like so good both sides of the ball. And then Pacom at 20 is one of the higher rated. Comes with a very, very high hype. I haven't quite seen enough of it myself in terms of when I've seen him, I've not been blown away by him in the same way that you might get blown away by a Davin Iniashvili or like Langavala is brilliant. Sorry, my point on that was that 4 young players who are 4 of the best young players you could have picked up in France. They needed young blood. Like they were an aging squad and and it really needed refreshing. And I'm surprised that there's only 4 signings. I thought there might be more. And actually the result is they've got quite a thin squad, which when you factor in that basically half of their first choice starting pack will miss chunks because of the Six Nations, you're looking a little bit stretched, I think, which is the kind of perhaps why you've got them. I haven't got them quite as high as you. I do have them finishing third because I think I love Nogara, and I think I think he's a bit fed up of being a bit of a caricature of himself. Hopefully, or either that, he'll become even more of a caricature of himself. But yeah, I think it's interesting times ahead. I think they could really struggle with the Six Nations, but they've got a brilliant academy. They seem to be bringing through some really, really good young players. So yeah, squad in need of a refresh. Got it. Will it? I don't think it'll need that long to bed in either. So they could hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think no, agreed with all of that. In terms of a couple of their departures, so I don't think we need to talk too much about the existing Toulouse and Bordeaux squads because we speak about them a lot and we have done and we will continue to do so. But 2 departures from La Rochelle who have ended up at Toulouse, who as far as I can tell have basically lost virtually nobody of sort of note. Or
they've not really signed anyone either.
But they've brought in Teddy Thomas from La Rochelle and Georges-Henri Colomb, who I still think I feel like he's become a little bit of a villain in the eyes of many. Supposedly can't scrummage, supposedly isn't fit enough, doesn't hit hard enough. I still think we see glimmers, and we still saw glimmers last year that all the ingredients are there for a really, really high quality tight head prop. And I think people have short memories around even guys like Antonio, who were not the sort of powerhouses they perhaps are now or considered now. And there's something in my head that's slightly inevitable about a bit of Toulouse secret coaching sauce on the main course of Georges-Henri Colomb. And I really hope he goes to massive heights. And if he does, then disgraceful seats to have him. And Rog wasn't particularly kind about him, was he? Earlier in the season. And Teddy Thomas is an interesting one as well, because he felt like he had a little bit of a renaissance last year at La Rochelle, playing largely at 13. Now, I don't know if he gets into Toulouse's best 15, but again, like you talk about kind of raw ingredients, he's still rapid, even in whatever it is now, 31. And Toulouse don't sign mugs. So I wonder if we might just see an even more impressive second coming of Teddy Thomas.
We should have a little for this. I feel like for this episode, we should have like a little cliche bell, and I could have dinged it then for Toulouse don't sign mugs. Should we move on to the chasing pack then? Is it a chasing pack or is it the peloton? Is it?
I think it's the peloton.
I think it's the peloton. I think there is about arguably, how many teams have we done there for? Arguably 9 teams in this peloton.
Yeah.
I think there are. Well, last year Bayonne were 4th, Clermont were 5th, Castres were 6th. Do you see any of them repeating their success from last year and getting into the barrage?
I see, to be honest, I agonised over this, and I feel like it could be one of those seasons where you can really throw a blanket over that group.
Yeah.
I'd like to think, obviously Bayonne had their best ever season last year. I'd like to think they won't be too far off that again, whether they do as well as 4th, whether it's sneaky into the barrage. I think I've got them at 5th in my list, which I think would be a really good result. I just think their recruitment last year was excellent. They've got a brilliant coach. Really,
he's literally today signed contract extension Greg Patat.
After a few murmurings of a little bit of discontent with
Lauren Travers.
Sorry, I was about to say Lauren.
Who was at Racing
coming in, but you would assume if he signed to 2028, that smooth things over, which is massive. And I just think they're a really complete side, and I'd like to think of their performances last year. It didn't have the feel necessary of a side like punching above their station. I think they had a really good game plan, excellent pack, and
it was a limited game plan,
compete.
It was relatively limited at times. I know they had X Factor players in Sorelli Mangala and Tiberian and Tom Spring and all this pace out wide, but quite a lot of the time it was a massive pack. Yoris Sagonz or Cami Lopez with a massive boot, Manu Tuolangi running it direct. Like, it was quite physical. It was like when I saw them at the Real Arena against Po, it was there. And in horrible conditions, it must be said, that it was their physicality that really stood out. It wasn't a day for backs play, but Po showed a little bit more of it than Bayonne. And I know that's the two teams' style, but their physicality of the pack was phenomenal. Like, it was clearly their USP.
So I think of that group, Bayonne are the ones I'm perhaps most confident in. Cass, obviously, my boys. I probably see them. I mean, they haven't lost many and they haven't recruited many, but that is sort of the Cast way, and they tend to season after season do all right. I don't know if I could maybe see them finishing just outside the barrage, but I think they'll, I would like to think they'd be pretty good for a Champions Cup spot. I'd be interested, obviously, Rob, Po, like I saw in a couple of your notes, and I sort of agree with this. It feels like, I'm not saying Po are going to win the top 14, but it feels like this is probably the best chance they've had of finishing somewhere other than a little bit mid-table or scrapping above the relegation.
Yeah, proudly wearing my Section Palwaz hat, my Section Palwaz t-shirt. Fortunately, don't own the pair of the Budgie Smugglers yet. Yeah, I saw, I think it was on Rugby Rama, like one of the kind of main pundits, or it might have been Canal Plus, like someone saying that this, like, Po were going to be the kind of surprise package this year. They were effectively going to be the Bayonne of this season, kind of up there. As a Po fan, part of me thinks yes, part of me thinks no, just because it's a team that is just never there. Like, Po this is their first time in the Champions Cup for ages, and obviously that's with a kind of extended qualification as well. They finished 8th last year. I don't know. Big weaknesses last year were physicality, and we have signed arguably the best hooker in world rugby, or certainly one of them for the more physical style in Julian Montoya. Yeah. Thomas Laclayette from Racing, a tight head prop who was brilliant at Oyonnax, kind of I think he is capped by France, possibly. He's definitely been in the squad.
But he's fallen down the pecking order because he was very highly regarded.
Yeah, and Facundo Issa, who is a brilliant ball carrier and takes the strain off some of the existing ball carriers, notably Becca Gorgadze, who it was kind of like, if he plays, we're all right. If he doesn't, then we're struggling, sort of thing. So there is more physicality. The line out worked really well last year. The back line was definitely what everyone got excited about with Po. It is incredibly exciting because of the young guys there. You've got Teo Atisogbe, who is future superstar. I think one of the Kiwi press over the summer described him as the next Serge Blanco. Like, unbelievable. Emilian Gaeton, who seems to score tries for fun, certainly at top 14 level. Joe Simmons at the helm. You've got a young fly half and Axel Desperes coming in. Fabien Braubery is the next. He is anyone who's listened to this last year will know that we love him. I love him. He was our revelation. He was our kind of best young player for last year. So it's youthful exuberance to the back line. The pack is relatively well organised, if sometimes underpowered. They are still young. They are still quite a young side. And I think they are still quite reliant on a few players, Joe Simmons being one of them. And I think if they lose Oradu for quite a long time, the guys that in the second row just aren't up to that standard. And certainly if they see less of Gorgadze and Issa, then they'll struggle as well. There's a lot of reasons to think that they could be challenging for the barrage, and they should be in the barrage. There's also a lot of reasons that they might not be. It's just my hunch that I don't think I've got them finishing 9th, I think, just because that's generally where Po finish. But I don't know. I just think that it's just my hunch. Maybe I'm kind of trying not to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, perhaps. A couple of the others in that mix then. I think Claremont,
I think
you
Cast will
mentioned
do
there.
well, by the way. I think your boys Cast will be fine. I think you're right. They're settled. They're always there, thereabouts. They were really good under Sidorni last year when he took over. They haven't made much changes. I'm expecting them to grow further. And they get Tom Staniforth back, who is
Incredible.
Big lump.
Yeah. I mean, he's an incredible player who missed in all of last season, didn't he? It wasn't. It was pre-season injury. So if he can, I think that the season before he made more carries and tackles than anybody in Europe in the domestic competition, which for a lock is pretty outrageous. And he has an amazing mullet. Well, I'm glad of your Cast optimism. Claremont, they're going to be there and thereabouts, but I don't know if I quite see. I don't think they'll be that good. Quality to keep up, perhaps. A team I'm interested in who
they haven't got fly half, mate. They've got they've got rid of. They bought Harry Plummer, and who's the lad that you saw on the SIGs in?
Tom Raffy, from Breathe.
But I don't know is the answer. I don't think they've got. When you lose someone like Erdős Bajeta, Anthony Bello is a very capable backup. And they lose a lot of club legends, Fritz Lee, Pathele Yato. I don't think they've signed that well. And I think their game plan was so limited last year. It was so direct and so reliant on Raka, Delgi, Newsom to spark something. Moala missed a lot. Maybe that would help, but I'm not hugely impressed. I've kind of got them. I think I've got them 8th because they are there or thereabouts. And Urias will get. There's a minimum standard with Christoph Urias as your coach, isn't there? Really? Yeah.
You mentioned Pathele Yato there. I'm quietly optimistic for the first time in a while about Perpignan. So he's one
signings,
of
some really good signings,
some great signings. So I mean, Yato can do ridiculous things on a rugby pitch. Whether he does or is fit is another matter. But Duncan Paiala, who we've spoken about a lot in the past, coming across from Toulon. Tristan Tedder, I think
he's brilliant. Like Duncan Paiala has an all court, like he's an all round brilliant player at 12 probably, but he's just never fit. But you can play at 12 or 15. He's a fantastic player.
Tristan Tedder, who was obviously previously at Perpignan, and constantly seemed underutilized at Racing, but excellent whenever he played either at 10 or fullback. I think he's a brilliant signing to have back there. Mamadou Diaby, bit of grunt from a winning side in Bordeaux. Jamie Ritchie, I suppose, is from our perspective arguably the most eye-catching, kind of still in his pomp. I think is fair to say, who was amazing in this last Six Nations.
Yeah.
So having kind of scraped around it and been in a few access matches over the past few seasons, I'm a little bit more optimistic for them.
Yeah, and they've just signed Geordie Pataya, haven't they? Not a player that he's a classic, like flattered to deceive Australian, like 25 now. And he came on with so much hype. He kicks the ball away a lot in very promising positions. That's my abiding memory of him. But he's obviously very talented. And if Perpignan on their day play, they love to throw it about, and he might suit that. But I should say that Perpignan basically stayed up. They didn't score enough points, which is weird for a team that can throw it about a lot. But they were kind of relying on a good scrum and Tommy Allen's boot and Valentin Delpy's boot last year, 2 incredibly accurate goal kickers. Their scrum is good. So if they can add that flair in the back line, which they seem to have done with the signings, then maybe they'll score a few more points, which will help. But they were quite comfortably the lowest scoring side, I think, in the league. The team I've got in 6th, Richard, Montpellier. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, but also, as you say, I'm really struggling to put like really kind of fresh air between a lot of these sides. I'm just not quite sure I get them. I think what they did have last year.
Neither do I. But they're hard to beat.
They became a bit harder to beat last year. They had again, you talk about kind of slightly more simplistic game plan. They did nail that to a point. Big lads hitting people hard on a muddy pitch. I honestly don't know. I think one of the things that's maybe swaying it for me, which he's only one player and he wasn't even starting a lot last year, but I quite often felt whenever they needed a bit of stardust over the past few seasons, Cobus Reinach bailed them out. And he just seems like such a big hole. Albeit Leo Colley, who I think he's got another season there, hadn't they? Despite the slightly unusual signing announcement of buy-on a year in advance. Yeah, I think to be honest, I just don't know what to make of them. Yeah, I think I've got them in the access match.
Yeah, I know what you mean about Montpellier. But for me, they could be the team in the barrage match, in the access match. But they also feel to me like this year's equivalent of Clermont, just not going to be the prettiest to watch, but might get results and generally can be quite consistent. I quite like their signings. They've this time round, as opposed to last time round. At least they've not hired, to my knowledge, not signed any more criminals. But yeah, I think so. That's kind of you think they're going to struggle. I think they might do all right. I think we're actually I think we might agree on a few positions nearer the bottom end of the peloton. I think we're in agreement on where Perpignan will end up. Also, Lyon and Racing 92. I initially thought Lyon were going to be. I thought they could be. This could be their year. And then I thought actually they've lost David Niniashvili, so maybe not. And he sparked so much of what was brilliant for them last year. I don't know about Lyon. I can't. I've given up trying to predict Lyon. I think they're just so hard to read. I think they will be arguably quite similar to last year of just quite well.
Take some scalps.
They'll
crumble at points.
Like the forwards are more organised under Karim Ghazal after he came in, but ultimately they were also just a bit rubbish at times, and you don't know which one's going to turn up, basically.
Where's that cliche klaxon?
Where's the cliche klaxon?
Yeah,
I would say they do have some of their signings. So they've brought back. I didn't realise it was a long-term loan, but Artem Mataron, who's done 2 seasons in Nevers, I really, really like. He's a really powerful, quick winger. He tore it up for Nevers. I think he played a little bit less because of injury. We've said multiple times, if this is your first time listening to Rosbeefs, then welcome to the Gabon Law fan club, because he is amazing, and he has the perhaps enviable task of replacing David Niniashvili, who is actually younger than him, which I hadn't quite realised. I thought Gabon Law was like 21, but he's 23. He is so talented, like massive boot, absolutely rapid, capable of scoring some absolute wonder tries, great kicking game. Yeah, he's going to be, I can't wait. He's one of the ones I really cannot wait to see in the top 14. Talking of scoring wonder tries, they've also signed Juta Wanakolo, which is a very, very cool signing for anyone. And arguably to kind of he's replacing the Niniashvili kind of score from anywhere thing. Sam Simmons, like we're big fans of him still. I think Yosefa Massi comes with quite a big reputation. So I do quite like their signings. They don't lose, like the players they've lost are not other than Niniashvili, like they're not first choice necessarily. They're not necessarily guys that they would want to be keeping. But there's just something about Lyon that I just don't think they're just consistently below the sum of their parts, I think, and never quite work it to get it together. If they finish 6th this season, I would not be surprised. But
yeah, I feel we've
getting
probably
that
done
on record now. So
a very similar kind of workings out here. I think on it's classic, isn't it? On paper, they always look.
You were quite positive about Lyon at times last year.
I was. I usually am quite positive about Lyon. I think, not to put too fine a points on it, but I do genuinely think that sort of 5th down to 12th, 13th. Like it really could be anyone's. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see any order of any of these sides. I think with sides like Lyon, there's some great signings in there. We saw. I mean, we were at that Bordeaux game last year where they turned over UBB at the Chaban del Mas. Like they've got, they've got some real qualities in them.
First and only team to beat them at Chaban del Mas, I think.
It was last year, yeah, I think it was. But then, there are games where they just leak points. And I don't, perhaps not being close enough to it, but I don't see what will change to prevent that sort of downside, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
A side like Perpignan, I think you look at some of the guys they've brought in and you go, actually, that feels like a side perhaps at that lower end of the table who might just creep themselves into something a little bit more respectable with those. But I quite like Lyon. I feel like they're a bit of an unheralded side in terms of they can play some quite attractive rugby and fantastic stadium and great place and great city, even though it's not like a sort of rugby hotbed, so to speak. So I quite like that about them. But yeah, I think I've got them in 12th.
Yeah, you're right in that other teams perhaps slightly have less of a just complete meltdown in them. And
sometimes also not entirely sure what their best side is. I think a side like Lyon, you have a few guys who feel quite interchangeable, some really high quality players, but like back row, well, particularly in the pack, actually. So yeah, be interested to see how they get on.
Talking of meltdowns, Richard. One team who was capable of folding from absolutely anywhere last year was Stade Francais. And the other, talking of meltdowns, perhaps slightly more off the field, but they were at times, they were officially the worst discipline record, was Racing 92. The Parisian clubs at times last year were in complete disaster. You have got one of them to finish 6th, and it is not the one that I thought you might go for.
No, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Racing, particularly when they're having a meltdown. I feel they've been good over the time we've been doing this podcast, for going meltdown, like back-to-back meltdowns, and then pulling something remarkable out of the fire. I think their winner away at La Rochelle last year, albeit a slightly weakened La Rochelle, was like a beautiful example of that.
Having just lost to Van and Poe.
Yeah, comfortably.
At home.
I think with Stat, this is based on little other than a hunch that very rarely serves me well, but almost for the same reasons that last year, 2 seasons ago, they came second and were brilliant. And we thought, they'll be in, they're a proper top 3 side. Could not have ever expected that they would be languishing as far down as they were. It was worse than Racing for sustained periods of time last year, with essentially the same team that they had the year before. And
with a team that we thought had recruited very well.
Same team, but with shrewd signings, as opposed to, some sort of weird Galacticos. Turns out they were all, it all just fell apart. So for that exact same reason, that same team, it's an on-off, heads or tail call as to how they're going to go. And I do still think there's plenty of quality in there. They may be a little bit unsure, perhaps what their best halfback pairing is, and maybe Kerr Barlow going there solves a little bit of that puzzle.
I'd imagine Brad Webber is still going to be out, because that was a very nasty
horror injury.
Like 180 ankle, wasn't it? And Tuara Barlow is about the only scrum half, certainly non-French scrum half, that you could pick that would be a genuine upgrade on Brad Webber. I think that's he's basically the only player they've signed. It is a very, very light players in, one of which, Noah Nene, was a Stade Francais player anyway. He is definitely one to watch. We've seen him, he made the France squad, so that's not just ahead of the Six Nations, so that's not huge news. But in the game that we saw him when he was for Dax at Soingolem, he was their best player by quite some distance, and looked basically the only player capable of doing anything, and physically for a 20-year-old looked phenomenal. But you're right, because I kind of looked at, so I've got them to go into the access match because I looked at their signings and thought, there's no one there and they're not going to improve, and they had so many flaws last year. But actually, your point that the same team, or a lot of those players, were so good the year before, but I would say that was under Karen Gazal and Laurent Nabit working well. It wasn't under Paul Gustard, who is still at the helm. I've not seen anything, despite many rumours. I take your point on they were very good, but I think there's just a little bit less quality. I think as some of those players are that little bit older, someone like Gabriag, some of the Type 5, you're right that they don't really know who their best fly half is. I think, I don't know, Makalou will score a hat-trick in every game.
That's the plan.
Win the league, yeah.
And then now, as of today, they're no longer sponsored by Capri Sun. They're sponsored by Visit Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire, which is
quite a flair.
Capri
Sun's cool, but I don't know. I just think you look through their squad and you're like, he's a really good player. He's a really good player. He's a really good player. But you are also like, why is he still a really good player? I don't know.
We'll
Racing,
see.
Richard.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
So I think every time we've done one of these, I'm always a Racing apologist. I think when people come for them, I think, just give them a bit of space, give them a bit of room. And this year for me, the one thing that's maybe, I was looking at those Paris sides, that makes me think they maybe won't be quite as poor as last year, but maybe aren't a realistic barragiste, is just some of the kind of wording that's come out around how they're looking to go about it now. Obviously, we spoke at the top about the kind of Farrell-Lorenzetti fallout, which had all seemed actually quite amicable, and then Jackie had to have the last word, as is his want. It seems on most occasions. But it was talking a little bit about kind of reconnecting with, like what they want to be as a side, trying to move away from flash in the pan signings, trying to establish something a little bit more long term. And I guess the signing that looks a bit like that is Hugo Sons, who was from impressed at Aurillac, but is green to be replacing. And who knows, maybe in future years we'll talk about him in the same breath as Finn Russell, Owen Farrell, Johnny Sexton, Dan Carter, but he's certain Dan Lancaster as well. But he certainly is he certainly doesn't fit that 10 billing quite at the moment. But it just makes me think that
his halfback partner is also even younger, and Leo Carbonneau, who was
not even first choice at Brive by the end of
the
last
manor
year.
born about like 2 years ago, and then was kind of dropped off slightly and got overtaken by a fullback playing at 9 in Matthias Verte. So, but ultimately he was a bright young thing 12 months ago. So, and we saw him play at Brive last September, and he looked in charge as a 21-year-old. So I quite like that, like young halfbacks, French as well, Gifs, which I think helps, even though neither of them have kind of got previous connections to the club, I don't think.
But I think
that said, the other signings
this is it.
Not joined up.
Well, this is it. It's sort of part of me makes me think that with those messages coming out of Racing, plus those signings, plus what's gone before, and obviously Big Sam taking over at the helm, you kind of think maybe it gives them a bit more space and perhaps there'll be a bit less pressure, and this is a bit of a consolidation season. I'm also wondering if it's sort of like, look that way, look at our bright new things, because we've gone after Nathan Hughes, which I never thought was going to happen. And again, there's some fine players coming in, but I think to your point, not joined up seems the apt way to describe it.
Well, they love a rapid Fijian, so they've got that in Ravito Manda,
who is amazing.
Who is amazing, yeah. Joey Manu, I've not seen in Union because he's been playing in Japan, but was phenomenal for the Sydney Roosters in the NRL. Wilfred Hulu, again, another one in the we're looking to the future, getting French. Brilliant player in Pro D2 last season for Grenoble. Yeah. He is a very good finisher, try scorer, and really busy around the park. Thomas Leno, also from Grenoble, older, but can run the line out alongside new man Johnny Hill, which is where's he been? But ultimately a high quality player on his day, I guess you could say. Like you could say with Nathan Hughes, like you could say with Taniela Tupou. Like, I don't know. It's some of those signings.
I mean, Taniela Tupou is a superstar, and he was great in that Lions thing. But there's been so much talk, isn't there, about him being just generally unhappy, not in a great place with rugby at all. Yeah,
he'd been in the wilderness realistically before that Lions tour, and then refound some form out of nowhere. You're right. I mean, it's again that if you told me if they finish 6th, I wouldn't be surprised. I think actually top 6 is going to be beyond them. I just don't think they'll have the experience at half. They don't have the depth at halfback, let alone the experience. Yeah. Like, they just don't have any. They've got Antoine Gibert, Sons and Carbonneau, and pretty much no one else. So I don't think they've not had the depth at halfback for ages. So, and that's cost them. Be interesting to see if their discipline's any better now that Boris Parlu and Cameron Woki have gone down to Bordeaux.
Well, and they've lost Cameron Woki and Nolan McGarrick. So
yeah. They've lost their 2 best players from last year. So I think that's the big thing. Is like McGarrick was the driving force for so much that was good, and now it's just going to be give the ball to Tuasova and hope he runs over someone, I reckon.
Yeah, Rob. To round it out, I don't think we're being harsh, but I think expectations of Montauban are relatively low across the board. They've come up.
I haven't. Well, not that I've not seen any, but I haven't. I would be absolutely amazed if there is a single top 14 preview that doesn't have Montauban finishing last, at least in the Form 2. Because, well, let's be honest, 18 months ago, this team was a relegation threatened side in Pro D2. Sebastian Tillesboard did a fantastic coaching job alongside getting some immaculate facial hair, but they were the 7th biggest budget in Pro D2 last year. They are absolutely miles behind on the budgets this year. I think they're on 14 million, and the next lowest is like 25. Like, if their operating budget is 14, that's their operating budget. They're not going to be anywhere near the 10.8 million salary cap. And they've only made one or two signings of note. I'm really looking forward to seeing Via Fafita in the top 14. I think he's going to be amazing. But the romance of Bosvial playing in the top 14 for the first time in his career after 15 years in Pro D2, it's a great story. But it could be a horror horror season, I think.
Yeah.
Like we could be looking at
Argen of 5 years ago.
Yeah, like not quite. But Argen finished with like 2 points today or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it genuinely might not be too many more. I'd love to see them do it. And it's a brilliant stadium. I hope we get to go back there. But it's a tall order. That said, Kylian Ringé, I really like the look of, and I think this is his audition to be snapped up by La Rochelle or Toulon maybe for this season after. But yeah, there's a few talented young players. They played some good rugby at times, and they were very up and down last year. They were kind of streaky in that they would win 5 in a row, then lose 5 in a row. That doesn't scream consistency in the top 14 to me.
No. And you look at, I suppose, maybe it's not fair to make direct comparisons, but you look at Van when they went up, who actually, they were bottom by a distance in the end, but they took it to the last week. They beat some great sides home and away. They pushed some very good sides, and were maybe not for a little bit of experience and quality. And actually, they weren't that far off in the grand scheme of things. But that was, if not the end, that was a culmination of many years of looking to get to the top 14, a distinct way of playing, a really solid group that had been together a long time. And it's not to say that Montauban don't have those things, but I don't think last year they were probably looking to go up to the top 14. So they sort of, they thoroughly deserved it and have been parachuted in. But it makes you think that ask is going to be that much more difficult than it was for a side like Van, who in the end were a little bit cut adrift. But who knows? They're going to be everyone's second team. So we'll
absolutely,
enjoy it. And apparently Montauban's beautiful, and we'll hopefully find out in a few weeks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time there, and I thought, and the Sapiac Ultras are awesome. And actually,
what is Sapiac?
I think it's like a long acronym. I think it's like, but then they're USM, they're Union Sportif Montaubanais, and then I think the Sapiac is like sports something. But it's Stade Sapiac, and therefore they are Sapiac Ultras, and they are USM Sapiac on social media, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
If you are looking for them. Yeah, the fans are great, and they bring lots of noise. And actually, if you are new, there is an interlude within this podcast that is a recording of the Sapiac Ultras. So yeah, look out for that. I think we've touched on a lot of the players. We kind of wanted to kind of summarise our players to watch. I think we've kind of touched on them at least. I'm gonna flag Fabien Brabery, Semi Langavala, and Gabin Law yet again. I think Noah Nene is one perhaps we've almost forgotten about in terms of someone that hasn't really been seen that much in the top 14 who could be brilliant. Similarly, Kylian Ringé, Montauban. Anyone that you're kind of screaming needs to get a shout out. Mathis Furte, another one. I'm intrigued to see what position he's going to play. I think he might start on the wing, I don't think he's going to play 9, but maybe he will. He's an incredibly talented player. And I would like to see him play fullback or wing. Yeah,
but I think for me, I'm going to be really parochial and just go with a couple of guys at Cass. Shabuni, who I think is probably my equivalent of Fabien Brabery in terms of pumping up the tyres of a young player. I guess they'll probably be playing against one another on Saturday, right? It's the Rosbif Derby to get us underway, which is really exciting. Another guy who I haven't seen much of and is new to the league, but is only 24, Vuate Karawalevu, and apologies in advance if I butchered his name, dual code international for Fiji, coming to cast. Was part of Sydney Roosters.
That's cool.
They have picked out some decent Fijians over the years, so touch wood. Yeah, it'd be funny if he was like a sort of nice controlling, kicking fullback, but that's not the impression I get from the from the bits I've seen and read. I think, I think he could be a real nice addition there. Yeah, they're the guys I'm gonna call out right now.
Any best signings? I think the best signings for me are Legarec, Niniashvili, which say 2 of them are with La Rochelle. I think Montoya is going to be huge at post.
So good.
I think a lot of people kind of seem to have forgotten that, and it's affected Pro League a little bit, but the Rugby Championship and Pacific Nations Cup, some of these guys aren't going to be available for the first few rounds. Notably the Argentinians, so someone like Montoya. I don't know if Issa's in their squad, but 2 Argentinians at Po who could make a huge difference to that side. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mercer back playing. The one that I think I'm weirdly more of a fan of than you are, despite him being a man of caste, is Gaetan Barlow. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Bordeaux at hooker. They had some line-out worries last year. The fact that they've got in Woki and a hooker that can throw suggests that they might be a bit better there. Jean-Luc Dupré, when he's back fit and back playing from the Springboks as well, another good line-out athlete. So Bordeaux hopefully papered over those cracks. Be interesting to see what happens there.
For me, the two you've already mentioned there, 2-8. So Issa at Pau, I think he's been amazing, particularly last season for Toulon. He's one of those guys that feels to me like I know they've got like Oviedo, who's a brilliant player as well, obviously in the top 14 at Perpignan, but I don't think I've really seen him have a bad game, and I think he brings that abrasiveness that perhaps Pau have lacked a little bit. And obviously Mercer, I think for me, he was so monumental when he played at Montpellier. Like he was operating on a different level to pretty much every other forward in the league.
We saw him in that game, first leg, like last 16 game or maybe quarter final at home to Quins at the GGL in Montpellier. It was like there is not a doubt. There would not. I reckon if you polled everyone in the stadium, they would say that he would have been the man of the match. He was just but you're right, he's on a completely different level.
And if he can rediscover something like that, it will just be. I mean, there were shades, weren't there, in a couple of games at Gloucester, but it hasn't. If we're being honest, and it didn't really work out. Remarkable season only 3 years ago or whatever it was, and
Toulon feels like a good fit as well for me.
Definitely.
I think that's a really good fit for him.
He'll be able to roam, won't he? There's enough grunt elsewhere. One person we haven't. Sorry, just the last one. Albanos has gone to.
I don't think he has.
Has he not?
I've not seen anything official.
Because that was heavily rumoured, wasn't it?
Was heavily rumoured. I'm going to put it out there. I don't think he's. I'm not Paolo Garbisi's biggest fan, but I think I'd rather have Paolo Garbisi.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
I'm not sold on Albanos. But you mentioned it a little bit, is the Rosbeef Derby. It's not on TV. They've gone with whoever Lyon are playing instead for the televised game on Premier Sports. There are 4 live games on Premier Sports this weekend.
Is that because is there a double?
Stagger.
There's not. Are there 2 games on Sunday? The first?
No, there is a 2
That's
o'clock.
happening at some point, isn't it?
There's a 2 o'clock. There's a 4 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, and an 8 o'clock. So those are the televised games. So you've got Lyon Racing. That's just such a terrible. Like the podcast game will be a way better game. Lyon. I can see why they've gone Lyon Racing though. Lyon Racing at 4. Montpellier v Toulon at 6. Bordeaux La Rochelle Derby, the Atlantic Derby to start us off at 8, and then the following evening Clermont host Stade Toulousain. But 3 games fairly tightly packed on Saturday.
Excellent.
Cast will probably get the home win, you'd imagine.
I'd hope so. Decent time to maybe catch them a little bit cold.
Stade Francais, that's a great draw to get first up. Early kick on
Montauban, Stade Francais.
That's a really good time to get them first game of the season, isn't it? When they've
just like the touch paper under another potentially catastrophic season at Stade Francais. Full banana skin mode.
Oh no, they're not losing that. I'm sorry, but they're not. Bordeaux La Rochelle will be fun. Because Bordeaux got a lot of injuries going into the start of the season, it should be said. Right.
Should we leave it there?
I should say, as anyone that may have seen our stuff last week, we will be doing our team overviews with a shallower dive, a deep shallow dive, injury-inducing head-first dive into the shallow end of each club within the top 14. So if you think we haven't mentioned someone, chances are on our YouTube channel we will, and we'll be giving a little bit more flavour on each club's chances with that. So look out for stuff on Twitter, wherever you follow us, Blue Sky, Instagram. There will be links to the YouTube stuff, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and then you'll get a little notification as well when the videos drop. Shall we move on to Pro Day, Rich?
Let's do it. Right, Pro Day, what more can you say? Other than we're giving it the big build up, and anyone and everyone who likes and watches Pro Day gave it the big build up, and rightly so, because it's a new season, sun shining, the brilliant kit, stadiums, mad fans are back. But this was the most Pro Day of Pro. We talked about the cliche klaxon. I can't even say it. The cliche klaxon earlier, but this round from a results plot lines perspective, had absolutely everything, Rob. And my fear is that we peaked too soon. We peaked in round one.
Yeah. I think I've peaked too soon on predictions. I was a Kerwin Bosch conversion away from going 8 from 8 as well. Oh no, because I went Brive. Sorry, I went for Brive. So not Van in that one, but that was the draw let me down in that one. I was 7 from 7 going into that.
Yeah, it was some going. In terms of predictions, I think this maybe brought home some of my fears that my slightly more abstract ones are all going to be totally wrong. Namely, that potentially Mont-de-Marsan, I mean, they only lost by 4 points at home to Colomiers, but I kind of saw those two teams maybe swapping places. Colomiers put pay to that theory pretty early doors. I thought that Agen might be doing a little bit more this year. They've got some way to prove that after taking 50 away at Nevers. An amazing own try contender at the end of this one as well.
In round one.
In round one, just in maybe not an own try, shambolic try. Maybe it's a new category. Nice. And then thought Biarritz might be struggling as well. And they went and absolutely humped Béziers, who put 50, I think it was 55-36, and there was a little bit of gloss on the scorecard there as well. A game where there was some.
Just on Béziers, so we obviously did our Proto stuff. There was we put out loads of information last week. There was a brilliant article by James Harrington in Rugby Pass. James is I think he's based in France. He certainly covers a lot of French rugby and does it very well. It's a really well written article as well. And after reading that, I came out significantly less positive about Béziers and significantly less certain that they would be finishing 7th, which that was our lock, wasn't it? That Béziers were going to finish 7th. And it doesn't sound like it's all that harmonious down in Béziers. The lack of signings and faith in the academy, I think, might take a little bit of time to bed in. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because that is a club thirsty for success. They'll need to turn it around.
A team that I was really okay. I mean, let's not read too much into the first round, but really pleased to see prove me wrong was our favourite Soyo Angoulême, who today have also released a very nice range of casual wear t-shirts, Rob, that would very much be up your street.
Excellent.
Because although the score, I think it was 28-25, something like that in the end, was pretty tight. Actually, that was with a couple of very late tries, including one in after the buzzer for Provence. Angoulême, who by all accounts and from what I saw, looks excellent. And having been not that long ago totally overawed physically by Provence in that barrage game, whatever it was, kind of 4 months ago, that's a fantastic first win for them.
Well, you mentioned being overawed physically, and there was some conjecture about the legality of it. Obviously, there was of the 50,000 or so that saw the clip of that we put up or via the Provence Rugby Twitter. There was obviously going to be some people like, oh, it's obstruction, or it does not bound properly, oh, it's, rugby's rubbish. There was, if you haven't seen it, a 45-metre driving maul try from Provence from a line out in the first half that I think it's one of those where I think it's not even close to stopping. Like it's just on roller skates the whole way. I think they never quite get set up right, and therefore, the headline news of a 45-metre rolling maul try conceded is probably a bit more severe than the reality. I think they got caught and then couldn't recover. But yeah, our man Arthur Proulx, guy that we loved last season,
taxes and lovely outside breaks.
Yeah, 3 minutes into the new season, devastating outside break. Step back and the perfect flat ball to Ewan Barrett as well for the try, who is at full tilt. That is a beautiful try to kick off the new season. And our man Benny Bott still got it. He slotted one from 55 metres as well. He kind of joked to us that they brought in Pete Lydon last year to kick the long goals. But he's still got it. Ben Botica, still the man.
Lovely crossfield kick as well, wasn't there? I can't remember who finished it, but yeah, it was delightful.
And Mamadou Mete scored a try. He looked good. Yashagashvili, a lot of players that I called out, I'm happy with. Notably, Richard, Roman Trouillou, who, go on, take it away.
Well, he's slotted one after the buzzer from 57 metres on the wrong side.
From Mont Blanc.
Against the winner. It looked like a fantastic game, this, actually. Obviously weren't able to catch the whole thing, but yeah, and well, that's the finale. And the thing that's so beautiful about it is he smacks it, and celebrating when it's still got about 47 meters to go, and it gets there, but it's not like it goes sailing over the
doesn't knock someone out in the front row, does it? Like,
but yeah, that's a real quite a big statement win given everything. I think everyone's very optimistic about Oyonnax. It's a bit of a early gut punch for them as well, having had such a mixed season last time round, to perform well against a good side and have it ripped away in the last minute. It just shows, as you said, Grenoble, such a well-oiled unit. Yeah, it was a bit of a mirror. The scrum penalty reminded me a bit of the one that killed them when Tommy Allen in the Access match. Yeah, a bit of symmetry there, but awesome result.
Oyonnax were quite a good way ahead. I think they were like 25-10 up or 25-13 up or something. On Romain Trouillou, he also, not just the goal kicking, which was excellent, there was also a really nice flat ball set piece from the back of a scrum, not far out, but he kind of breaks through the line really flat to the advantage line, breaks the line, hands through the tackle, offloads to Gershwin Mouton. Like, the guy, from what I've seen, has got a real complete set. So good signs for Grenoble. And yeah, you're right. I think that was a derby. They went pretty strong, and I actually thought Oyonnax looked not quite as strong as I perhaps expected. I thought they've obviously got Luca Matcarver to come in at some point, or some Georgian halfbacks to.
Was he on the bench?
I think he was on the bench. Yeah, but he's not starting. And Micah Vivas is still away with Argentina.
Yeah, big loss.
Did you want to touch on the other end of the table, really, from last year, but another team that was involved in an access match of sorts? Did you want to touch on that? Aurillac?
I would.
Aurillac v Carcassonne.
Yeah, caught a little bit. Very comfortable win for Aurillac in what by the end were, again, cliche number 18 today, but were the kind of Tuesday night Stoke conditions. It was absolutely leathering it down in the Cantal. But yeah, really, really convincing win. I think the reason I want to call it out is felt that maybe that gap between Nationale and Pro League is a little bit bigger than it has been in the past. And again, this is one game. Aurillac have beaten some very good teams, particularly at home, in the past seasons, and are an excellent side in their own right.
Settled or fairly settled.
Yeah, that's very true as well. As opposed to Carcassonne, who have brought in quite a few new guys, understandably, sort of cherry picked their way through Nationale a little bit. But it's pretty convincing at what should be, maybe one of the easier trips to make. Although it could maybe just say that Aurillac are looking up. And there's a lovely bit of work from our man Ronan at the front of a line out, little try assist, very good. But they had some success in the first half, a couple of tries off the back of rolling mauls as well, which, in terms of that kind of physical barrier you need to overcome to succeed coming up is maybe a little bit worrying for Carcassonne. But they've got their first game. I think their first home match is home to Oyonnax this weekend. Yep. Which, that's a big challenge, and you'd imagine Oyonnax will go full click for an away scalp, and great opportunity for them to sort of maybe show what they can do at home. But yeah, nice convincing start for Aurillac in the wet and gloom.
Yeah, should we look ahead then to next week? I think it'll be interesting to see. We can't make too many judgments at this point, but it'll be interesting to see when sides have had a home game how things kind of shake out. Starts on.
Did you want to touch on Brie Van or?
Completely forgot. Brie Van.
The big showpiece game.
The big showpiece game, which we've completely neglected to talk about. What did you see much of it? What did you see of it?
Yeah, I watched I sort of did the rerun that was on FR UK, which was great. And Joe Worsley was commentating.
I was surprised by that. I don't know what's going on there. Because he didn't do the semi-final last year.
I was listening to a bit of it, and there was a question about John Cooney, and I thought maybe, understandably, maybe there'll be like a few pre-potted questions that he'll be able to ask that will then be, I don't know, played in. And he was like, not a great line or great handling from Erwin Driddy there. I was like, is he in the ground? Where is he? But it was cool. It was good I actually really enjoyed. I think it was quite a nice touch to have him almost admonishing his own side at points, but in quite a controlled way. Yeah, so I saw bits of it. It kind of, having obviously seen the result and then like some of the headlines, the Saili red card, which I think was more than fair.
Yeah.
It's a bit unfortunate, but it's red.
It's a red card.
It's an exuberance red card, isn't it? As opposed to
slightly wrong.
An evil red card.
I'm surprised it didn't get an orange though. I thought we might see our first orange.
Oh yeah, we need to discuss that.
Because he's driving up and it kind of catches it at the wrong time. If the dynamics are slightly different, he probably hits the ball and
potentially.
And yeah,
but yeah. Anyway,
get a ban. That's not good news for Van because their game plan was just after that was just the same old 10-man rugby that we saw last year. It was direct.
It was direct, and they had some. I think this sort of surprised me was Breathe then go up to a lead. So you see that on the match report, whatever. But actually, it belies the fact that Van were okay. It was naturally a little bit more limited, but had way more possession, way more territory. Breathe were held out when they had to, but had quite a lot of gain line success as well. They carried pretty hard and well throughout, and then actually got into a position where you'd say they probably should have won, save for the fact that they had to play over an hour with 14 men. You'd argue they actually controlled it really well. Their line out was very, very good.
Yeah,
from what I saw.
Dave Cherry played well on debut.
Yeah, he was really good. So bit of an odd one. I guess they'll be happy with 2 points at Breathe, but a little bit. Oh, what could have been? What did you make of it?
I think that's probably a fair point that they'll be happy with 2 points away at Breathe and denying Breathe a win. There's an element of it's kind of a 6-pointer to it, if you like. You mentioning it there that they should have won. Shades of last season, dare I say, where they threw a number of last minute or late, like the game we were at, Van v Perpignan, they were 10 points up with 8 minutes to go. And that was exactly what happened here. They were 10 points up with 8 minutes to go, and a bit of a brain fade or a bit too cautious, I'd say, from Maxime Lafarge to kind of let the ball bounce back into play and then dot it down. That's kind of time waste. That's kind of, I'm happy to see that, because that's like you're trying to soak up all of the time and actually just being a bit careless and kind of, let's play a bit of rugby, just make sure. But it's quite nicely scored try from Galtier's ball to Dridi. I was impressed with Jan Pesson, former cast man, who I don't know if he got capped, but he toured with France to Argentina, I'm pretty sure. He was really impressive. Like in attack, I thought he ran some great lines. John Cooney obviously stole the show, but I don't think he did anything that unexpected. He had a very good game, as you'd expect. His kicking was good. Yeah, I think Van were very similar to last year, but you don't know the kind of you don't know the kind of parallel universe where they do have 15 men for the whole game and whether they do play something a little bit more expansive. They played with a bit more pace. I really like Michael Alania.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent.
So
I thought he was class.
I could never quite work out why he wasn't playing that much at Aurillac, but he did get a bit more starting
last year,
and it looks like, I don't know if Ruru's injured. Yes, he must be, because Thibaut de Bice was filling in at 9, typically a fly half/fullback. Not that he did particularly badly at 9, but I wonder if Alania will stay as first choice as the season progresses. But I also think that the guys that, I've got to be careful what I say here, the guys that were slightly less impactful in the top 14 last year, physically, not necessarily work rate, but physically, guys like Joe Edwards, Gorison, Simon Ogre, they looked that little bit more physical at this level. And I wonder if that is more of what we can expect, that Van will actually, although they might like to be more expansive, they will just naturally be a little bit more physical. Because Breathe are one of the more physical sides. Like, they were ridiculously physical at times last year. And I think Van largely outmuscled them. I think Courtney Laws was brilliant at the breakdown, but I wonder if Van will have the edge physically over a lot of teams.
I think they were pretty impressed. I'm glad you mentioned Alania there. I think he was that first half. He was fantastic, both sort of sniping and being aggressive, and actually his box kicking was really good. I think Worsey mentioned at comms he'd obviously worked with him at Georgia, and he said some of his kicking was kind of what let him down, and he seemed to be landing it on the edge of the 22 every time he touched the ball, which is very cool.
Great kick chase from Englishman Ben Stevenson Johnson, who actually, when he did a few times, he did get ball in hand, made
Looked really
yards.
good.
Yeah,
it was a really good, interest. And I think on another occasion, had we not been playing a wet Aurillac type game down in southwest London, probably would have quite happily settled in to watch that properly. The other thing, just you mentioned that article James Harrington earlier, which was brilliant, and I'd implore people to go and read it on Rugby Pass. Brive didn't have that much ball, but actually looked maybe a bit more attacking and incisive in attack, certainly off first phase than they have in the past. And there was a call out in there around, so David Darrick-Carrere, who's now become head on, or like the kind of manager, and with Bronken as the sort of director, and how he likes playing fast and loose, basically. And they've brought in a guy from Cast whose name is in the coaching staff, Julien Reberol-Brumeur, which is a fantastic name, and more than a bit of Cast flavour to the coaching staff. But essentially, you'd expect them to maybe play a bit more with ball in hand this year. And actually, the second try is an absolute beaut. Yeah. The sort of little wraparound play.
I think it's from Payson, and then
I think you're right.
Bosch has plenty of gas to kind of get around the outside and fire.
Yeah, very cool. So which is exciting because we know about Brief's set piece and things like that. But if they can add that, it could be a slightly more interesting season.
Nice to see on their set piece. I actually think Marcel van der Merwe, he got skinned a couple of times by Alania, but nice to see Zachary Afan, a guy who we were impressed with. Six Nations, under 26 Nations, 2024? It's a long time ago now. Actually getting some game time, absolutely massive unit, but looked good. He had a horror injury that kept him out for 12 months, basically. So nice to see him getting game time. He looks like one to look out for, Zachary Afan.
Definitely.
Especially with France's tight header shoes.
Excellent. Now we put that to bed. Shall we next
Nationale,
week or this week?
Oh, no. Yeah, now we can do next week. Sorry.
And then we'll do Nationale.
God, I'm all over the place. I'm just so eager to talk about ruggers, Richard. But the FR UK game is an interesting one. It's Colomiers hosting Biarritz, isn't it?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Biarritz were pretty dreadful away from home last year. I'm looking forward to seeing Colomiers play in full, and Valentin Delpy at the helm. Really looking forward to that. Could be a cracker. That'll be interesting to see where Biarritz are at. Having said that, they demolished a Béziers side that might not be quite ready. Be interesting to see how they pull up against a team that we think are going to be pretty good generally, especially at home. Any other games that you want to call out there, Richard?
Yeah, I think Agen Mont-de-Marsan to my sort of dark horses for the year. This screams 6-all draw or something after I've given them the backing.
Definitely.
The Valence going to Provence. Valence who beat Dax, who actually held in for a bit of a period of time, but were kind of swept aside eventually relatively comfortably. But you'd think Valence travelling to Provence probably not a great one for them. Yeah, there's a few that look a little bit more maybe slightly one-sided, but I'm interested, actually, a team that I guess my new season resolution is to know more about Nevers, the eternal blind spot, I think, for us. Where Béziers, who we've just said there, perhaps are maybe not quite as stable as we thought and, struggled in that first round. Nevers, who actually are one thing I do know, they're quite an ambitious club and have pretty decent budgets.
Yeah.
But that hasn't always translated to much beyond maybe the odd barrage place. That'd be an interesting one, having dusted Agen pretty comfortably. Maybe an opportunity for a win on the road there that would be quite a nice little statement of intent. So, yeah, interested by that one.
I was at this game 2 seasons ago.
You were, and that was a
like
real
4th versus 5th or something at the time. Yeah. And it was like a last-minute try or a last-minute disallowed try, I think, for Nevers. It was really close, and it was the last time. Anyway, times have changed quite a lot. The one for me that draws, and I know this is not just parochialism of our boys Sax V, but Van hosting Soingel. Van in there, as it was pointed out, we got something wrong on our preview sheets. Van in there, slightly enlarged Stade de la Rabine by 650 seats, which is definitely not enough to satisfy demand. But Van, the late Friday kickoff, which we know is tough for away teams. Soingel, last year's best away side, will be interesting to see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really intrigued by that. Probably the nearest side to Van geographically as well. Just.
Yeah, I guess it
might
would
be about 7 hours away.
Yeah, it's still a decent trek. What rounds it off? We've got Grenoble hosting the LAC, We've spoken about Valence travelling to Provence, and yeah, Brive go down to Dax. So there's a couple of the sides we are probably assuming will be a little bit further down the pile, hosting a couple of big boys. So yeah, be interesting to see how they turn out. We mentioned Carcassonne now, their first home game back in Pro D2, which is fun, definitely. All right, are we done top 14 Pro D2? Should we come back? Should we include Nationale in the Petit-Fours this week? Because I don't know how much I've got. Right, back in a sec. Okay, to round us off, Rob, and we'll stick in Nationale here because it's a league we love. The call out here, and I'm loath to just go through results because it's a bit dull, but I don't think I've ever seen a single round of results where the score is so similar everywhere.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to go...
4 teams have scored 4 out of the 7 games. The home side scored 19 points, and the other games... the home side scored 18 points, 20 points, and 22 points. That's remarkable.
So there was one on Friday, there was one draw, which Rouen actually have got off to a little bit of a sticky start. Yeah. So they drew away at Bourg-en-Bresse, 18-all. Straddling that were Périgueux, our Nationale boys, who got a great win at home against the Galacticos of Nice, Nissa Rugby, 19-15. Albi got past Massy, 19-16. If these next results sound familiar, it's because they're basically the same. Marcon Baruel got their first home win against Chambry, which is a brilliant result, 19-17. Suresnes actually had a bit of daylight. They were the most comfortable win of the weekend, also scoring 19 points to 10 against Tarbes.
Only team not to get a point. Only team not to get a league point, Tarbes.
Rennes, 22-18, got their first win in the league at home to Bourgoin. And Narbonne, 2016, snuck past Niort. So, yeah.
I mean, Rennes and Niort are going to be all right, mate. I reckon they're going to be decent.
Yeah.
They're going to be competitive.
Good shout. But yeah, fascinating on a rugby level, some of the results there. But just, I can't think of a round of games. Throw a hat over it. Maybe Tarbes had a disallowed try. That would have been good as well, last minute or something. But yeah, so Périgueux. And
there was an 80th minute penalty for both teams, apparently.
Okay. So Périgueux, Suresnes, and Narbonne, the early front runners.
Nice, boys.
Yeah,
Suresnes, didn't see that.
That's all I've got to say.
Narbonne and Périgueux, I saw doing all right, but Suresnes, I didn't see them doing well.
Under David Oradu still, I think, at Suresnes.
Oh, nice.
And who's gone to Suresnes? Harry Glynn?
Harry Glynn, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing there as well.
Young Englishman.
Yeah. Okay. Rob, let's round out a few Petit-Fours Digestifs. It's been a bit of a bumper episode today, but it is a top 14s on the horizon, so why not?
I've got one big one, but there are a few small ones. The small ones, Paul Valemsa has started a nutrition brand called Built For. So good on him in retirement. And a lot of photos of Antoine Dupont at Como football. Are Como what's going on there? Are they linked to someone somehow? Are they somehow feel like the trendy brand? They keep coming up on
Venice, FC Venice, Venezia were this a couple of years ago. They had some amazing kits, weren't they?
Yeah.
Didn't they, Venice? And were sort of seen as a bit of a, as you say, genuinely fashionable club. I don't know if Como have taken over. Como are now in Serie A, right?
Yeah.
And they also
blue and white Adidas, which is quite nice.
Similar to Como, they have one of these. Venice, as you'd expect. One's a lake, one's famously basically floating.
Yeah.
Stadiums pretty much on water, which is really cool.
Okay.
But I imagine, but he was there with small matter of Miss Universe. I can't remember her name, who I believe is now the partner of, or Antoine Dupont is partner of Miss Universe, which is
she's his partner. Miss Universe is what it takes to partner Tony D. That's what you got. If you want to be with Tony D, you've got to be Miss Universe. There's he won't accept anything. Nothing else is good enough.
You reckon?
Talking of French scrum halves who are a bit stocky, we didn't mention it in Clermont, but Baptiste Junot has, after a lot of transfer rumours linking him to pretty much everywhere in France, has extended at Clermont till 2028 with an option for 2029.
That's excellent for them.
That's very good news for them. I did see that FC Barca Rugby, another football one, were at the Stade Aimé Giral last week in conjunction with their North Catalan brothers, and the FC Barca Rugby, so the rugby team affiliated to Barcelona, FC Barca, as we know them. They will be attending the Montpellier game at Stade Émile Giral, bit of Catalan unity with Perpignan. Very cool. Have you seen the big stir on social media / in the media in France, Richard? It actually made the headline story of I get the Daily Telegraph Sport roundup email, and it was the top story on that. Have you seen this?
Not another bee attack in Aurillac.
Well, it was an attack of some sort or was it by Richard Dort, who I think was a centre.
Oh, I did see this. Yeah, this was a bit grubby, right?
So I had never heard of this person, but you're aware of Charlene Prado. She is apparently...
No, but I'm aware through this... Yeah,
she's apparently an influencer. Posted a video of herself on social media from the festivities in Dax. She was dancing on a table, and in the video, and the caption is something like, a girl just can't have fun these days. These men must have their... It's something completely accurate, calling out men for being disgusting, because in this video a man can be seen lifting up her skirt while she's dancing on a table. And it was noted that this person bore an appearance to Richard Dort, who I think is from Dax, because I think he's a brother-in-law of Raphael Ibanez, who I know is from Dax. She filed a complaint for a sexist insult against a man that she identified as Richard Dort. And he has in turn filed a complaint for slanderous denunciation.
Wow.
Jesus, it's so bad what his lawyer has come out with. One of the influencer's friends supposedly lifted the skirt, and that is kind of seen as being Richard Dort. It's actually not him that's lifting the skirt. But upon seeing her friend lift up Charlene Prado's skirt, upon seeing this, my client does the same thing. It's on the level of putting bunny ears in a photo, which is...
I'd argue that isn't the same thing.
Yeah. The gesture attributed to Mr. Richard Dort has no sexist character and cannot constitute an offence, as the criminal investigation will demonstrate. With complete serenity, Mr. Richard Dort awaits the progress of the investigation to establish the truth in the face of the absurdity of a video montage tended to stigmatise sex behaviour when such is not the case. I think he has now been dropped. He was pundit on Canal Plus. I think he has now been dropped. That is... I mean, it's a rugby player in France. There are some horrid stories. Unfortunately, that is at the lighter end of some of the stuff that comes up. But it's just some of the response is just, I mean, it's a brain dead act in the first place, but the response through his lawyer and his official statement.
Double down.
Utterly brain dead.
Yeah, it's not great.
So if you have seen this story of kind of, you may have seen the photo of a girl dancing on a table complaining, or the man putting up a skirt. That is what's happening. It is a former French international rugby player being a
okay. yeah. Well, can't argue with that. I've seen the clip, and that is essentially what it is.
If you've got anything to lighten us up, Richard, off that heavy Petit-Fours, have you got a nice digestif to lighten us up?
I have. Rabbi Slimani got married at the weekend.
Oh, nice!
And it looked bloody lovely.
Where did he get married?
I actually don't know, but it was a nice kind of al fresco affair
in France.
Yeah. Yes, it did look like it was in France. Here we go. Slim Rab is his Instagram handle. Oh, it doesn't say here where it was, but yeah, here we go. Chateau de Bois-Rigaud, which is in the Auvergne.
Oh, very nice.
Which would make sense. But yeah, it looked lovely. And as you say, a nice tonic to some very grubby behaviour from someone who,
should know better.
Should know better.
Anyway, that's a bumper episode, but it is the start of the top 4 team. We have had also the start of Pro D2, and Pro D2 was absolutely bloody wild. And we can see it now, a lot more people can see it. So we wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper for you guys. Normally it's us just saying stuff, and people believe it because they don't know any better. Whereas now we've actually got to actually do our work, and now that we can be held to account, we can't just make it all up, Richard, unfortunately.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Still continue to do so.
Say anything with conviction, people believe it.
You can follow us on @Rosbiff Rugby. I had a bit of a follower influx this week, particularly on X, following those excellent, if we say so ourselves, but Rob, it was mainly
team
your
guides.
work, the team guides, and then just retweeting a big old maul.
Yeah.
There you go. 2 ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
But follow us on socials @Rosbiff Rugby. Do email rosbiffrugby@gmail.com. Yeah, I think that's
We've had an email about stag do that we need to get back. I've only seen that it's a stag.
Yes.
It just says stag do update, which I'm very excited to read.
I did have a look, but I haven't gone back.
But yeah, follow us, subscribe to YouTube, because there'll be an even more content about Top 14 because it's fantastic and it deserves a lot more coverage generally, even if we are making it up and just saying it with conviction so that people believe us.
Perfect. All right. I think that's it. Enjoy the first round of the Top 14. We'll be back next week. Rob, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Labor Day sale and get 35% off paints and stains August 22nd through September 4th. With prices starting at $31.84, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.